To go. I'm still here. Taking you up to 2 p.m., most likely. And Will Z Stats, who does great work for Sports Illustrated, covering the Kings, writing for the Kings, had this to say. He wrote an article. Are we all undervaluing this Sacramento Kings star? The Sacramento Kings may not be great this season, but they have a former All-Star who often gets overlooked in the NBA landscape. The Sacramento Kings have a lot of questions heading into next season, mainly around how they will navigate their overabundance of shooting guards, but also about who will be on the team long-term now that Scott Perry has taken over the team. One of those guards is Zach LaVine, who is arguably the best of the bunch out of LaVine, Malik, Keon, and Devin Carter. While some fans are urging for Ellis to start, LaVine will likely get the nod at the starting two-guard spot once the season gets underway. Could you imagine, real quick? We haven't had that discussion. Could you imagine Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder starting with Zach LaVine on the bench? That'd be crazy.
I cannot.
That would be something else.
That would be just even more infuriating that they traded De'Aaron Fox.
Yeah. That's likely due to him making $47.5 million next season, which everyone will be quick to point out. But it's also because at the end of the day, LaVine can straight up score the ball. Last season, LaVine averaged 23.3 points, 4.3 rebounds, 4.2 assists on 51.1% shooting from the field and 44.6 from three. He may not bring much in terms of defense, and he doesn't stand out as a passer or rebounder, but LaVine is one of the best shooters in the league. And in a league that values the three-point shot now more than ever, that's not a skill to take for granted going into the 2025-2026 season, especially with first-year head coach Doug Christie repeatedly saying he wanted the team to take, I forgot about this, upwards of 53s per game last season while he was the interim head coach. According to StatHead, LaVine is just the third player in league history to shoot at least 7 threes per game at 44.6% clip or better. The only two other players to do so, Duncan Robinson, when he shot it at 44.6, and the other is the one, the only, Steph Curry, who did it 2 years in 2013 and 2016. That's pretty good.
Steph, enough.
That's pretty good company for LaVine to be in. But even after a nearly historic shooting year, he still has the same rhetoric around his name. People still point out his injury history and defense and his contract while mostly ignoring his elite skill set. When looking at the Kings and how their roster is made up, it makes sense that everyone is so skeptical. No one expects the Sacramento Kings to do much in the loaded Western Conference next season, but LaVine is the type of scorer who can single-handedly carry a team for a handful of games. Great stuff there, and there's more to it if you want to check it out on Sacramento Kings on SI from Will Z Stats. Great stuff from Will. I don't know that we have been undervaluing Zach LaVine. I feel as if I've tried to do a good job of giving Zach LaVine his just due. I also feel like we just need to see more, and the problem is we just need more from him, right? What he did this past season, I don't know. I mean, I feel as if that is a pretty good second option. What Zach LaVine just did, an extremely efficient second option. That's how I'll say it. And that's great. It just is not enough, or has not been enough in the Sacramento Kings. The question has become, can he take that next step? When Will says he can carry an offense for a handful of games, well, how long is that handful? Right? Can that handful, can he use two hands now? Can it be two handfuls of games? Can it be a basket of games? Can it be a larger number of games? Because that's why people go back to the contract. It still doesn't add up the same way. That's the issue, and that's always been the issue. And I don't necessarily think that – we know this real quick, just a joke. Real quick, I don't think Zach LaVine's getting anything under the table. That is all above the table right there. We don't got to worry about Zach LaVine getting anything under the table.
Wouldn't that be so fun? Not in Sacramento, because he obviously just got here, but when he got traded, he had like a trade kicker for 15% increase on his deal, which, by the way, Chicago Bulls, why? Why would you give him a 15% trade kicker on top of a max? But anyways, he waived the trade kicker in order to make the trade happen to Sacramento. How Sacramento Kings would it be if we found out on the next Pablo Torre finds out that the reason he waived the trade kicker was that Sacramento started a fake company under the table paying Zach LaVine?
What were the fake? I mean, the tree planting in LA. If that doesn't say Ozark, I don't know what the tree planting. I guess what are you planting, the palm trees?
So I remember this company being a thing. It was actually funny that the Pablo Torre reminded me of like Robert Downey Jr. doing those weird commercials for them. But the idea was like athlete or celebrities or famous people would essentially eliminate their carbon footprint, right? Mm-hmm. So they'd calculate how much carbon they produce a year and then plant a certain number of trees to offset your carbon footprint, which, by the way, just sounds like a scam. But I don't know where they're just getting hundreds of millions of dollars in investing for this idea, because anyways, the whole company is funny, but it was a real company.
Yeah.
Just had a very strange mission and a lot of apparently money laundering.
Yeah, it was real. And, you know, as far as Zach LaVine is concerned, I'm looking here and I get it. It's not the same, your percentage against the cap. I understand it, but they have the annual. He does keep dropping with the more players get paid. Zach LaVine does keep dropping. He's tied for 18th, it looks like, or it's a little bit different because I have it based on AAV. But you have some guys here based on that. You get to the 40s where Zach LaVine is at and his annual, and they might not be counting his player option. I feel like they probably are. But Zach LaVine does keep dropping down the list, and he's around. These are the types of players he's around now. Now, I get it. When he got paid that and the percentage against the cap, I understand. But just from a dollar amount, you start with Chet, right? That's 47. You got Chet at 47, Paolo 47, Pascal 47, Domantas Sabonis 46, Franz Wagner 44. Now, again, these are averages, so that's why, you know, it's a little bit different than what he will get next season. But Franz Wagner 44, Scotty Barnes 44. Then you have Zach LaVine at 43. Luka's at 43. Obviously, he's about to get that Supermax in a couple years. Trae Young, 43. OG Anunoby, 42. Jaren Jackson, 41. LaMelo, 40. Tyrese, 40. James Harden, 40. Brandon Ingram, 40. Kyrie, 39. Ja Morant, 39. Zion Williamson, 39. And I get it. It's not apples to apples based on when they got signed. Desmond Bane, 39. I mean, and you break it down that way, and maybe there's a little copium happening here. It's not as jarring. Now, the 47 next season, that's still crazy. But if you're averaging it out, it makes you feel a little bit better. The thing is, you have to get that Zach LaVine, right? It doesn't feel terribly egregious. It's not worst contract in the league level if he's that Zach LaVine, which leaves a very small margin for error. But as far as him being the 2024-2025 Zach LaVine, I don't think it's horribly egregious. It's an overpay, but I don't think it's horribly egregious. Now, do you think he will be that Zach LaVine for the next 2 years, specifically next season when he opts into that $47 million? We'll have to wait and see. But as it stands right now, that average being at about $43 million, that Zach LaVine we just saw, it's an overpay, but it's not oh, holy cow, that is insane overpay. It is just, yeah, he's making more than he should, but there are a couple guys in the league making more than they should.
Yeah, we've talked about this before, is that if Zach LaVine were making $30 million, no Sacramento King fan would have a problem with him because he is a number 3 option on a very good basketball team. Mm-hmm. If you look at the numbers, the efficiency he was putting up, the fact that he was an all-star on a Bulls team that got the 6th seed in the East, and I know it's the East, and we figured out that they would have been a 9-10 play-in team if they had been in the West that year. But on a decent Bulls team that won 46 games, he was the number 2. So he can be a number 3, I think, at this stage on a team that wins 50 games. The problem is he plays for Sacramento, where he is, yes, the second best player, but also because of the style of play Sabonis plays, is often required to be, or will be required to be, the number 1 scoring option this year. So that kind of lowers the ceiling. I'm kind of just looking up players too who are on their 3rd contract, right? Because you mentioned like Maxey and LaMelo and guys like that, but it's tough because on the 2nd contract you can only sign for a certain percentage of the cap. But like the guys in his group that's like, this is their 3rd contract and they got the max, it's like Larry Markkinen, Paul George is on his 4th contract, Jaylen Brown is on his 3rd contract and he got the super max, Karl Anthony Towns is on his 3rd contract and he got the super max. These are players who I'd say in 2022 were kind of, other than Devin Booker, were kind of all in the same kind of group as each other. It's just now Karl Anthony Towns and Jaylen Brown are all NBA guys, and Zach LaVine is, I'd say, a fringe all-star at this point in his career.
Yeah, and I would say this. Be careful. Look, there are lines, don't get me wrong. There weren't a lot of people that were willing to trade for Zach LaVine, but they were out there. Let us not forget that same organization that everybody lauds as the gold standard, no pun intended, and everybody should try to be like this squad and like this org. The Golden State Warriors were interested in Zach LaVine. They knew they were going to have to overpay for somebody. And I think there are multiple ways to get something done, and Zach LaVine and Jimmy Butler, they do 2 things in completely different ways. You're paying both of them a lot of money. If you were to ask me off top, I think Zach LaVine more so fits what the Warriors, in theory, tried to do. The Kings got Zach LaVine, and the rest is history. As far as if Zach LaVine has a season like this, could there be somebody that convinces themselves, hey, he could kind of put us over the top? If he's having the same type of season, I know it's a lot of money, but one of those Eastern Conference teams, and we've done it with DeMar, and we've done it with Malik, and we haven't really done it with Zach LaVine because of that money. There might be somebody, if they have that money available. Now, the problem is, how do you make a move like that during before the trade deadline? Where are you going to find that type of cash? But there's somebody out there, or I guess there could be somebody out there that finds himself in that position. It's the same kind of teams we've thrown out before, if they think it's a better fit, right? If they think, and again, I don't know how this money would work, but if the Raptors think, hey, Zach LaVine, even as an overpay, fits better than RJ Barrett, I know you still got to find $20 million somewhere, than RJ Barrett, and enter other name that's making about Jakob Poeltl, right? Jakob Poeltl at $19.5 million and RJ Barrett. Hey, we think Zach LaVine with the squad that we currently have makes more sense than RJ Barrett at that small forward shooting guard position. I don't think it's likely, but I think anything's possible.
Well, let's throw out another example. At the deadline, I can't remember who we were talking to about it, but the Bucks, before they traded for Kyle Kuzma, they were thinking of flipping Chris Middleton's contract to land Zach LaVine. Mm-hmm. Now, and again, they ended up pivoting to get the financial relief, but if Milwaukee at the deadline is like, hey, we're just desperate for scoring.
Yeah.
LaVine's playing at an all-star-ish level. Let's say an Eastern, where he was in Chicago last year, a fringe all-star in the East. Then maybe it's worthwhile to just dump Kuzma and dump, I don't know, Bobby Portis and just say, to heck with it. We're going to try and put LaVine and Giannis together and see how it works. Maybe they do that. I don't think they would. Maybe the Hornets are better than we think. And they're like, hey, let's just big three, LaMelo, LaVine, and Brandon Miller, we have to try and see if we can get these guys to some ceiling.
Don't get me wrong. I don't want anybody to get, because Kyle, I didn't even tell you this. I posted, my kind of lead into the show. This was on Thursday with Brett Siegel, and I said calls coming in for DeMar, or the Bucks calling for DeMar. That's all I said, and Brett Siegel retweeted it. I think because Brett has a pretty loyal following as far as a newsbreaker is concerned. It found itself in the Bucks in the Bucks news cycle. So a bunch of Bucks fans have been retweeting what I said. Hey, has somebody heard about DeMar on the Bucks? So that's been going on for about a week now. I will get some post saying, is there any update on DeRozan to the Bucks? So I'm not trying to start anything, and this is not likely, but if LaVine is having a season like this, and all right, cool, we're up against it. Same conversations we've had with DeMar DeRozan. We're up against it. We get LaVine in January. He's going to opt in. It's a ton of money. You still, look, here's the other thing. Klay Thompson, he showed us. And Kevin Durant is a great example of the whole Achilles thing. He's also one of the rare examples of the Achilles thing that season you get back, right? And even he would probably tell you he wasn't exactly right. So Tyrese Halliburton and Jason Tatum, they're going to be back in 2027, but we don't know what it'll look like. They're going to still be getting their legs out from under them. There could be a lot of Eastern Conference teams feeling, no, we still have the momentum, right? We still feel like we are a team as they're getting their sea legs under them. We still feel like we have an opportunity. So it's not as if everybody's just going to go all in for this season, and then after that, we're just chilling and no, they're back. The Celtics are back. Everything is back. The Pacers are back. I don't think that's the case at all. On the other side, he makes a lot of money. It's a position that is not look the best value-wise, right? We just talked about, just go get Anthony Simons. Okay, I understand you could do all that. I think Zach LaVine is better than Anthony Simons. I think Zach LaVine is the Charizard of that archetype. He's getting paid like Charizard, the hologram edition, but he is the best version of that.
He's getting paid like he's planting trees.
Yeah, he's getting paid, but it's all above the table with that. I'm looking here, Kyle, and I know they're trying to move off. Could it be, if I'm the Heat, I know they were trying to give up Terry Rozier for a half-eaten bag of Sun Chips, but if I'm the Heat, I like that $26 million in order to, if I wanted to match something else. Because if it was, I'm just looking here, obviously they got Norman Powell. They probably wouldn't do it because Norman Powell, Zach LaVine, a smidge redundant, but there are teams out there that might want to make it pivot. Trust me, it's a heck of a lot of money, and it's not likely.
I can find 3 teams that it would be like not a salary dump situation. 3 teams where they're like, oh, we actually think Zach LaVine fits our profile. It's Toronto, like you said. Mm-hmm. I think that would only happen, though, if we come back and Grady Dick is like just not it. Mm-hmm. And they're like, oh, actually, Grady Dick profiles more as a backup than he does a starting 2 in the future. So, again, like Toronto would need some things to happen. You would have to, Milwaukee, as we mentioned before, would probably be one of those teams. And then the other one is probably Charlotte. If Charlotte gets off to a hot start.
Yeah.
Now, do I want Miles Bridges anywhere within a 10-foot pole of Sacramento? No, I do not. But that would kind of be the situation where they're like, hey, Miles Bridges and Colin Sexton, you take our problems, we'll take your problem, and we'll figure out the rest later kind of situation.
Now, look. There is another team. This guy is looking to be paid, and it's a name that we've brought up before. And it would have to mean that this point guard, who never really, from what I've seen, doesn't really do too many point guard things. He's outstanding defensively, all team defense. What was he? Second team all defense, right? He's young. He's only 22 years old. But if Dyson Daniels starts to show us, if we start to actually see Dyson Daniels on offense, because the only time you see Dyson Daniels on defense, and he's outstanding, but if you see Dyson Daniels can actually play the point guard position, and you say, all right, we need offense, and we need a different type of offense, Trae Young to Sacramento, Zach LaVine to the Hawks. Let's get it done. Zach LaVine's a clean 2 years. We don't got to worry about the connection to Trae Young. If the Kings want to, I know the Kings were not interested in Trae Young this last go round, but if they want now, I've been on the fence about Trae Young this whole summer, right? I'm sure you can find me contradicting myself on Trae Young because I don't know. I really don't know. But if you want to keep this never say die attitude, I was just telling Baby Styles a couple days ago, never, you never quit, right? I was on my Chippo in the backyard trying to actually make one of my chips, and it took me about 3 hours. I said, this is what when I finally made it, I said, look, Baby Styles, this is how you do it. You never quit. So if the Kings want to go never quit scenario, you would get Trae Young and you would have to give him an extension, but then you would have DeMontis, Trae Young, who I do think would be outstanding offensively together, might just be a nightmare defensively, but you could go, I know you got Schroeder. Schroeder is a little bit expensive. You move off of Schroeder, go get you somebody go get you another wing, another forward, somebody like that, and you go Trae Young, Keegan Murray, DeMontis Sabonis, and wherever you go next after DeMar. I think that's interesting. So that's a team where if the Hawks say, hey, Dyson Daniels can play point guard, let's move on from Trae Young, and we do need offense, so let's go get a Zach LaVine for a couple years. We're going to overpay, and then we'll just be young and stink and probably get another top pick. Oh, and in the meantime, we'll have a little playoff run in the East. Yeah,
and the Kings might have to include some draft picks to make it happen, but it's kind of the same philosophy. Yeah, it's tough because, like, if you're Atlanta, wouldn't you rather just, like, say, hey, Trae Young, you can hit free agency kind of situation?
Probably.
That's kind of the tough situation they find themselves in.
So, Trae, what is it? He's at, same idea. Him and Zach,
they're
both
basically
at 2 years.
The same price tag, 1 year and a player option.
1 year and a player
option.
The
only difference is Trae Young might opt out of his player option. Zach LaVine, there's no way he's opting out.
Yeah, and I think the Trae Young thing, it's the same type of deal. So I hear you, Kyle, but it's less. You would know, everybody would know what it is. Zach LaVine would know, I'm here for 2 years, and then I'm going to hit free agency. It would remove, and Trae Young, there have been reports about the distraction thing, which I don't know if it's overblown or not. It would remove the awkwardness, if you will, which is a level 1 awkwardness compared to a Jonathan Kuminga, but it would do that. And you do need, if Trae Young is just, you know what was funny? I got into it with the texter. This is a couple months ago when I used to do that. I'm a reformed man now, so I don't do that anymore.
You've got a second child.
I've on the way. It could be any second now. But I got into it with a texter because I said, Trae Young is hunting assists, right? And the texter said, Allen, you sound ridiculous. If you get assists, what do you mean hunting assists? If you get assists, then obviously you're just doing your job, making the team better. Why are you trying to make that a negative? Did you see that thing going around with Trae Young, and I think it was Tyrese Halliburton, when the NBA changed the scorekeeping to throwing the ball off the backboard, no longer being an assist, and then Trae Young chimed in and said, yeah, that's why I don't do that anymore. So even though it's fun for the fans to watch, Trae Young literally said, no, if it doesn't count for an assist, I'm not doing it. If that doesn't tell you that this man is hunting assists, I don't know what will.
Because he is.
He is. So if he's an assist, the assist hunter, if that's his bag now, right? And I'm saying this from a Hawks perspective, we need somebody to score the basketball. And I think Zach LaVine, I don't know, is it crazy to say that Zach LaVine is a better scorer right now than Trae Young?
It's close. I would say that's what Zach LaVine does best. I think they both suck on defense.
Trae Young he's a point guard. He's a better passer. I'm having some fun about the hunting assist thing. Don't get me wrong.
I'd say it's comparable. You know, I'd have to look up what Trae Young's final numbers were last year in terms of like true shooting percentage.
8,000 assists. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Trae Young, here you go. Same points, actually. 24.2 points, 3.1 rebounds, 11.6 assists, 41% from the field, 34% from three. He's only 35% for his career, Trae Young.
Yeah, he's been a volume shooter guy too, which is tough. But as we mentioned before, Zach LaVine, this is the more interesting point. So the efficient field goal percentage, which basically says, basically just says 3-pointers are worth 1.5. It's telling you Zach LaVine is at like 60% and Trae Young's at like 49%. So I will redact my point and say, yeah, Zach LaVine is the better scorer than Trae Young.
Hey, if it's a stat that helps my argument, then I'm all for it. Oh, wow. We got to get to the other side. And when we do, let's keep the conversation going. 916-339-1140. Are we undervaluing Zach LaVine? And we'll follow up on